off the first season. We are privileged to have homegrown Angela Porter here today. She's going to cue us up on a whole lot of things, so it's great to have you here today. Obviously, we have the director, Andre Crockett, so thank you for tuning in. We are Barbershop Talk. We are here for to be a voice of the voiceless, to do as Paul Wellstone said, build a community amongst all of us. We are here for everybody. We all do better, as he said, when we all do better. And that's what this is all about. We're about our full community, our state, focusing on African Americans, at-risk folks, those who are voiceless and minorities, but also for the whole of our community here down in South Minnesota. So tune in, help us out, but thank you for tuning in for our last show here today. And as we do, we're going to get into elephant in the room topics. And Angela, we're going to spare you, but you probably have one of the hardest topics here, and you can chime in if you want to. But I want to get to the education question that's out there about these Hollywood folks and what they did to get their students into these prestigious schools. And you being a JD, not only that, going to an HBCU, I know there's a lot of prestige around becoming a lawyer and all of that and getting accepted and all that. And I obviously as well going to an HBCU. Can you speak to that whole thing and how this kind of relates to this? Because I know even, I didn't get to go to an HBCU. Yeah. So with some of my community, I'm a sellout, right? Or I'm less than because you didn't go to an HBCU. Yeah.
Well, first, thank you for having me.
Yes.
I kind of want to ask y'all to line me up. No, it's so great to be here, and thank you for asking that. That's I think spurred a lot of talk in the community, because you see this scandal, this admission scandal, and Black folks are not a question in that.
Right.
We're like, how does this relate to us?
Yeah, it is what it is. We've been doing that.
Right. But it emphasizes the role of money and wealth in this educational system, but also that can kind of converge with whiteness.
Right.
And we don't see any of us implicated in that.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
So I've been jokingly, but half seriously telling people, well, hey, more reason to go to the HBCU.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we just have a different history at our institutions. I'm not saying they're free from scandal.
Yeah. Right.
But this type of thing, I don't think you would see typically in an HBCU setting. Because of their emphasis and their origination, their genesis in providing for the community of Black people, Africans in America, to educate them, and that's always been sort of a communal approach. So you have people across the stratosphere of Blackness at the HBCU, from those who still in 2019 are first time in college, or those who are maxing out on student loans to go to school, to those on the wealthy end of the spectrum. So this is like the Black world represented. It's not a question of privilege. There's not really a reason that there would be a bribery scandal around that. So I just think it's a different narrative. I'm kind of looking at it, shaking my head, thinking, okay, this is how they're getting down at the Yales and the UCLAs. These other places that historically didn't even want us there. So it's kind of like, hey, serves is right.
So you didn't see that at the HBCU. Kind of Spike Lee kind of brought that out. The culture of the HBCU in what, 90s?
School days.
Yeah.
1989 maybe.
Yeah, that was a while ago, but you don't see that there.
What, the dynamic
of like, okay, the prestige, hey, get my daughter in, I'm giving you, 100,000.
Right, because I think you need to do that if there's an access issue. And there is an access issue, of course, around higher education because it's expensive. And scholarships are finite. Funding is limited. But I've never heard of, let me make sure I'm not claiming to have all knowledge around this, but that's just not a dynamic I think you see in that context. People aren't clamoring to access a certain number of seats in the way they are the Ivies. And there's not really this exclusivity around test scores and pedigree that you see at the Ivies at the HBCU, because it's always been from the beginning an effort to get the entire community in there.
So let me double down, and I've heard this argument before. I haven't researched it enough, but I've heard it a lot working with attorneys, and that is becoming a JD. And I heard the argument of the entrance exam, that being the LSAT, and others as well.
Knowing that Black thinkers and African people have been in this conversation since the beginning of time. So that's a major.
I know that financially, HBCU schools been having problems.
Oh, okay.
I mean, really, because it's a small percentage. I think Roland Martin talks about it often too. The small percentage of alumni actually get back to the institution.
Oh, that's a big issue.
Why do you think that's?
Well, I think all of it has to do with oppression, right? So, what are the alumni doing? What is their net worth when you look at them as a community versus the net worth of Harvard? Because when I walk out of campus with a Howard degree, in my mind, that's gold. That's diamond level.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about diamonds. That's gold.
Right.
In my mind. And then if I tell any person in the community I went to Howard, they're floored. They're really, excited about that. But that doesn't work with the CEOs and the bosses of these white-owned corporations. They don't see the value in that. So we're not getting the same jobs that Harvard graduate would get, or Yale graduate, UCLA, UT. All these people have that historic prestige, and that has everything to do with history and whiteness in America as anything else. So while there are some well-to-do alumni of HBCUs, and they are giving back, a lot of people, they're not looking like the alumni of U of M, for example. They don't have that surplus income. So a lot of people say that whole thing is cultural. That could be too. But we don't have the generational wealth as a people to be giving back. You think about like grandmothers and grandfathers in the barbershop. Man, you might send a check every month for $100 to an institution that they believe in. You know, that's great. The effort is there, but that's not going to match up to Yale's endowment.
Right on.
So I think the HBCUs do have that struggle. There's that financial issue. I think people are trying to change that. Alumni are trying to change that. My cohort in college, that was a big topic for us. We got to give back. But we're not out here all CEOs or top-notch, owners of institutions like these other schools. So it's hard to compare.
Yeah, and I see that Jamal Bryan, Dr. Wesley, and some of the rest of them who have mega churches are starting now, who benefited from HBCU schools to do an initiative of giving money to help them. They did a job of helping Benedict, because the churches actually built HBCU schools. The people don't know it.
A lot of them,
a lot of them, right? And that's how they kept it funded and stuff. So it's good to see those progressive pastors now they benefited from Morehouse and other places saying that if we're going to keep it alive, we're going to have to be able to sustain it, right? And they have enough people to be able to do some of that. But also just coming from systemic wise, that most of your back in the days, it's called Black Man. You should see it. They did an episode on ESPN. But most of your good athletes back in the days came from HBCU schools, because it wasn't allowed to play, in your mainstream, right? Until Kentucky, I think it was Texas Tech or UTEP or whatever it was, started to integrate. But what happened is that they didn't do it because of, they did it because they seen the monetary benefit of having those athletes become a part of it. And so what happened is that now is that, so those athletes that probably could have bring millions to the HBCU schools don't even go to those schools, because the scouts or AU coaches or whatever are telling them that if they go here, their chances of going pro is slim.
Absolutely.
Right? But that's not necessarily true.
Not true
right?
at all.
That's not true at all, right? So you know, see something about see that same thing we're trying to say, that they control the narrative.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so that young athlete believes that if he goes to a predominantly black college, HBCU college, that his chances are small, that the coach can't coach better than my successor. But that's not necessarily true, because that coach got that job because he probably is a better coach than him, because we got to work that much harder to be able to get in those positions. And so from coming from a person from a sports background, I'm trying to get the young kids to understand that if you perhaps are a 5-star athlete, you can break the norm. If you start going there, then your friends will start going there, and some of those institutions that's underfunded will start being funded, right? And so they're afraid.
Can you imagine
something like that,
went
right?
to Howard?
Howard, right?
I know the big thing for us was Colin Kaepernick's brother.
Yeah.
He chose to go to Howard.
So talking about it changes stuff. So we have to get kids to understand that that it's not always better because you think it's better. It's not, right? And it was hard. I said the hardest thing, and I mean I felt it in the community for a while. You know, being from a 4-star athlete, mentoring young kids around sports and other things. How, you know, we had the kids here, and you know, some of the parents they at first was like, well, it's ghetto, it's this and this. As a matter of fact, they don't have an understanding of what ghetto is, right? When they see an African American man have a bunch of African American kids, automatically, or the space we're in wouldn't allow it to be unstructured in the first place. But the whole object was to get those kids from what I have here, because I'm teaching them how to think, how to navigate the system, how to do this, but to try to get them over to here. But the problem was that when they got over here, they didn't understand the politics, the infrastructure that they work with, and everything like that. And so that's why you have very few athletes here in Rochester even playing any sport.
Yeah, that's a lot of them.
You see what I'm talking about? You have one African American coach, where he comes from my program. Right? 90% of the kids who do play any sports come from my program. So it's not just the sports part, it's the academic part that comes with it, because the other coaches allow those kids to play sports but won't hold them accountable for academics, right?
College football players can't read.
Right? You see what I'm talking about? And so they get the kid, and then after they use them up in the 8th grade, going to the 9th grade, right? Now grades start to count. So now they know that if I do this, now those kids can't compete with my kids.
Sounds familiar though.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there's a lot that's been done, and I don't claim to know all of this, but I know there's a lot of work out there on pro sport and how much it mirrors enslavement, and how much, you know, commodification of black brute strength and bodies has never really died. It's kind of just evolved into that.
And I'm seeing that now, and being a lover of sports, and I told Andre this a couple of weeks ago, and I've seen this, of course, but when you see all the coaches of all the prominent schools, football.
Well, look at the NFL. Well, how many black coaches in the NFL? And 80% of
and owners, and it's like, wow, something. I mean, it's of course something's wrong, and we know that, but it just, when you say that, it mirrors.
It mirrors it, and I think what's important was what you just said, Andre, about that whole speech that you just gave. You started with the history. You started with how that is exposed to you, what's really at work. And I think that's what the kids need to know, because it didn't really click for me until I truly learned about the Negro Leagues in baseball, or, you know, some of those corollaries where we had our stuff. We've always played sports and played games and danced and sang and always done these recreational things outside of, you know, that people would say are, you know, extracurricular, co-curricular, but we had control of our institutions at one time. And as you said, those were disrupted as a money-making opportunity when it kind of looked like, oh, integration is on its way. We need to get ahead of this. Jackie Robinson, come on. You know, it's like, that wasn't for us, but for money. And it's the same. It's not for us when we're going to college just to be on someone's team, and then, you know, English class failing out, math class failing out. Nobody cares about you and your intellect, but it's, hey, get on that practice field, go play. It's not for you. But when they were our institutions, that was for us. So I think when you educate kids about this, you have to start with that story. I just imagine, like, you know, with all the stuff in the NFL, because I love football as well, and I've been boycotting. This last season, I didn't watch a single game, and it was because of all that stuff around the protests, and when the NFL came out with the rules about fining people for kneeling, and I know they took that back, but just the fact that they would think that's okay was just a huge turnoff for me. But, you know, I think about, like, what if we had our own NFL today? First of all,
could do it.
It wouldn't look much different, right?
Right. Yeah, they literally could do it if they wanted to.
Yeah. 80% of the players are black. Yeah. It's not like we lack the ability, capability.
Yes. Right.
Coaches, commentators, you know, we run that league.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But we don't really run that league.
Yes.
Because of history. Yeah. So I think you have to start with the history.
Yeah, and I find out, I always tell kids, you know, I switch them to about, don't think about playing for NFL, Major League Football. How about owning your own team? Right? Change it, almost change their mindset, because we was forced to be creative and entrepreneurs in the 60s and everything like that, before Lyndon Johnson come with the welfare system and stuff that we wasn't on that system. Right? We was self-supported within the community, and sometimes our younger kids don't understand that. And but it is when you're a thinker like that, our community or society sees you as an outcast, like they did in the Barbershop. They focus on ball, on how bad of a person he is, but he raised 3 beautiful kids, a good father to him, right? He worked outside of the system, right? Designed his own tennis shoes with Nike and all the rest of them. They was afraid that if this thing works, that he's a trailblazer and everybody else gonna know they don't have to wear Nike, Adidas, or, you know, Under Armour, right? The guy Under Armour didn't have that much resistance as LaBelle had. Right? Because Under Armour was just started with, you know, t-shirt, you know, shirts and stuff like that, and they got into tennis shoes. He didn't have that same problem, right? And then so we hear it within the African Americans, like, well, I don't want to keep selling those shoes for $599. Who wanna buy that type of tennis shoes and stuff like that, you know? Because they wasn't accustomed to it. They didn't realize that his tennis shoes worth just as much as those Jordans or whatever and stuff like that. But now he become a trailblazer, whereas now others could say, you know what, maybe I need to start doing my own tennis shoes. Like Kanye West came with his, but another story of him. But just saying that they're coming up with their own brands and stuff like that, and says that they're making millions, but whereas a LeBron James could do his own tennis shoes and make billions. Getting them to really understand how much value they really have, and they can start doing some of them things themselves, right? And so we don't have to keep waiting as a community, right? We can start doing those things ourselves. And so we just got to get them in the frame of mind of saying that we can do it, and we can be able to support ourselves on the journey along the way.
Right. And I think it goes back to the earlier question too. If you really come back into yourself and reflect, and we reflect as a community, why do we like the things that we like? Why are we attracted to the things that we're attracted to? You know, celebrity or sports or, you know, certain, why do we like these things? And really paying attention to that and knowing the history, really getting into that history and studying, reading books. And why do we like the things we like? And how have we been steered towards certain institutions and certain, why are we, you know, drawn by certain things in the society? And just challenging that at every turn is really important. Because of course you're a young black man growing up in Rochester, Minnesota, you want your sneakers, you want to play on a team, you want to, you know, do all this stuff, but you also need to be fully conscious of why you want to do all that, and who is steering you and using you, and who is truly thinking about your identity, your intellect, your growth as a black person in this society.
So Angie, you are in, you have your JD from Howard. Did you have a specific emphasis, or you just went for that Because I know sometimes you can work on the JD plus something
like
else.
an LLM. No,
Yeah,
just
no.
a standard law degree.
Okay, and then what did you get your bachelor's in?
Howard as well.
I mean, what
Oh, okay, yeah. So sorry. So I did a pre-law program at Howard that was called Legal Communications.
Okay.
And it's changed now, and then I minored in Africana Studies.
So kind of tell us about your journey, particularly to inspire young folks. How you got there? Were you always, I'm going to be a lawyer, then I'm going to come back to Rochester and run for office? I'm trying to promote that. By the way, we got Doug Porter in the house, the man himself is here in the background. But yeah, your journey toward educationally and vocational.
So here, I thought I wanted to be a doctor for a little bit because male, and just the exposure to that.
Right.
Again, not really knowing why I liked what I liked. But then I realized, okay, we're doing some of the work with NAACP and Diversity Council Rochester, and how I would get fired up around issues at school. We used to have this group of guys at school who would come to school wearing the Confederate flag, for example.
Yes.
And that kind of stuff really kind of stirred me up, and I used my, I guess, connections with NAACP to help lead a letter writing campaign against that, challenge that. But I kind of got in this habit, because of how I was raised and the community I was in, of just like speaking out against racism a lot. So that kind of made me second guess my aspirations to be a doctor, which was me on autopilot.
Yeah.
And then I thought I should be a lawyer because I know all these people who are lawyers and they're like fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a very complex analysis. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll be a lawyer, do something that relates to people more, my people.
Yeah.
So then I went to Howard. And that was a whole thing too. Me thinking I needed to go to an Ivy League school.
Right.
And then suddenly realizing when my dad took me on a tour of all these schools, our last stop was Howard. And I remember my mom earlier was like, you should look at Howard. And I thought, I think both my dad and I were like, oh, okay. Didn't really give it much thought. But once we went on that tour, I said, wow, this is where I belong. And it was because of the institutions I had been a part of, BDPA, NAACP. It gave me that feeling that I really loved about being around intelligent Black people who were serious about their education, but also were like cool, down to earth, into having fun as well.
Good.
That's why I went there. And the law thing just kind of fell into place because I really enjoyed being in school. And by the end of the 4 years, I didn't know for sure what I would do after that. But I knew I could go to school at Howard. I could stay here. So Howard Law, law school is just like undergrad. There are all these top tier schools, and you better go to this school or else you won't make as much money. Or you have all this conventional wisdom, which is you have all these rankings, which are really funneled through a Eurocentric lens. Like this is the best school for white people.
Exactly.
Not for you.
Right.
Anyway, by that time I was totally deprogrammed, so I said, Howard Law is my first choice. If I don't get into Howard Law, I'm not going to law school.
Oh, good.
So I got into law school, and I went to Howard, and that was a second lesson in how to think about things differently and learn our history in that area too. So that was kind of my path. It wasn't very intentional the whole time, but I think I was fortunate because I had a lot of influences that helped direct me there. So yeah.
So now you are a professor at William Mitchell.
Yep. So I'm an
adjunct. And U of M?
Well, so at the U of M, that's my primary job.
Okay.
So I'm an attorney investigator at the U of M, and I investigate complaints of discrimination and sexual misconduct there.
Oh, wow.
But I do teach on the side. I'm an adjunct professor at William Mitchell School of Law.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you mix it up with a lot, because I know there's a lot of African Americans in the legal profession up in the Twin Cities. We don't have that down here, but a lot of judges, and judges that have been elected, and all that. So how is that community? Do you guys all huddle together, or?
Yeah. So actually, I'm involved in an organization called Minnesota Association of Black Lawyers, NABLE for short. And when I came back from DC, that was kind of one of the first organizations I got involved in. So I think I had learned from DC that you need some sort of outlet, community outside of work. Like you you're not just gonna make it on your own.
Right.
Which is what we talked about earlier.
Right.
You know, feeling isolated. And I also knew Minnesota from growing up here. I knew like I had to find a black space. Stat, like immediately.
Right.
So I found that in Mabel, Minnesota Association of Black Lawyers. There's about, I think there's 300 members that we know of that are active. Right. So 300 black lawyers in that organization, at least. 300
black lawyers.
In Minnesota.
Did y'all hear that? 300.
At least.
And we got one down here, maybe two.
Yeah. We gotta talk about that.
Yeah.
So do y'all have any questions over there? One of y'all, Gil, you have anything?
Well, I can make up something.
Well, you want to make up
No, I do have one though, but I was just saying, like, I know that you say that you're not, I mean, you're up in Minneapolis now, but like people like you is really needed here for the young black women and older black women, because they try to stand strong as a whole, and just women, period. You know, they try to stand whole, but it's like, it's not so, I mean, like, it's hard for them to stand together because it's not, there's so many he say, she say, or stuff like that. So it would be great, like, for someone like you to come back every now and then.
Or permanent. We're gonna find a job for her.
But she is down here every now and then. But go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I did a lot of up in the cities. I did a lot of work with, people, city youth, like probably what you're doing, and what I found out, I think this was discussed earlier, is just the breakdown of family units. You know what I'm saying? And that could be attributed to a lot of things, but I think of how I grew up, and just having a parent there that supports what you want to do, that can make all the difference in the world.
Well, I think,
it seems like you have that.
Yeah, I think it's an important point to think about in the African context, because, some people will look at me and say, she's really privileged. I can't really challenge that. But people, looking through a Western lens will say, she came from a two-parent home and they had this family unit. But if we really look at our history as Black people, going back to Africa, we see that family is like a 4-person unit or whatever. Yeah. That was never really our thing. Right? So it's like this breakup is sort of a myth in a way. I mean, yes, are we worried about our children not being connected with parenting types of people? Yeah. But if you think about African people and different societies across the African continent and then beyond, it wasn't, it's about who is your parental figure. Right. The whole cohort of adults is raising you up. Right. And then you have a whole group of siblings that you're not blood related. Everybody is collectively helping each other. And that's really that's the breakup we need to be thinking about. Not just that you have a married parent group. If we start adopting that, it will seem like a very pathological situation. And there could be some self-fulfilling prophecies. Yeah. Man, I don't have a dad. Man, I don't have a mom. My mom's out. But if you think about it as, actually, I'm in a strong community. There's a whole group of people raising me in and outside my house, or, next door, or whatever. Then you're going to be fine. And that's historically how we've had to deal. We've had a breakup of our families, a very jarring instance of breaking up.
An intentional breakup.
Yes, in the first moment when we came over here. Absolutely, like intentional breaking up. And we survived that. And it still affects us today. But knowing that we've been surviving that for hundreds of years is inspirational. Yeah, because you're like, hey, we got this far. So my little family stuff is actually going to be okay. Because I have a whole people who can look out for me. And this is not new. This is old.
The whole separation kind of, we really had no choice but to go to that model anyway.
You're right,
Even from that perspective too, like, a lot of even the single family households, and a lot of people are even privileged in the ghettos to have a mom and dad, but you know, it's a difference when, you know, you make your own decisions and like, you know, you grow up in a house where you wash the walls and scrub the floors, but when you go out them doors, you know, that's the difference in the people that actually make it and the people that don't is because of, you know, you have to be a leader in your own steps. And like it's two different lives that most people live. It's the household life and the life that you lead once you go out them doors. And you just made the right choices, you know, when you left out that door. So it's not really about the families, it's about you as a person and leading in that direction.
And I think, you know, especially if you're Black, no matter what your status is or how people tell you, you know, you're great or you don't have this or you have this. I think the thing that unifies a lot of us is when we see somebody on the news being arrested or you know, going to jail. All of us think like, I'm like one step away from this. That's what I always think.
So
like,
true.
I used to work in the federal court and I would be sitting in these sentencings and I would see, you know, Black people. I joke, like, people would ask, where are all the Black people in Rochester? They're in court. I saw them every day in court. I saw us every day. And I would think, like, that reminds me of my brother. That's my dad. That's my cousin.
Right.
You know, that's the thing. That's the accountability and responsibility we all have to each other is to remember, yeah, I may have gone to college and law school, but I'm but one step away. And then the great equalizing force is truly white supremacy and oppression. Because any of us could get pulled over, looked at, assessed in a split second, and
that's it.
It's it. Anyway, sorry, Dad.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I do have to say, growing up in the kind of neighborhood that I grew up in, maybe many of you grew up where, in northeast Philadelphia, where there was gang killings and violence on my streets, the protection of a strong parent from that.
Right.
Because otherwise you'd go out into the gang to look for
that replacement.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that replacement and that whole thing, and to know that you have a mom or a mom and dad at home. We stayed in the house. You know.
But you know, I guess what I was saying is that could have been your auntie or your uncle
it could have been,
or
right.
your grandmother.
Exactly.
I know your grandmother was
Right.
my great grandmother.
I'm saying you do need that to kind of, as you step out into the outside, how are you going to, what attitude are you going to have when you get out there? You know, how strong are you to resist a lot of the forces that would take you down?
Yeah, so it is really important. I don't want to belittle that. Home life is really important. But it can be, you know, it can be changed. It's something we still have control over. Because for every Doug Porter who had his parents at home, there's also other people, insert name here, who you didn't know that wasn't your cousin.
Right, absolutely.
Because he lived with your family, but like they took him in because he didn't have his parents.
You corrected me, I think, as long as you have that figure, that parental figure. It doesn't have to be your parents, somebody who teaches you morals.
Right, and I'm sure like all of y'all in this room have been that figure. I know personally, just from my observations, my dad has been that figure too. Young men and women who maybe don't have that home life. And I think that's the extra responsibility we have is to look outside of or what we've been told is our family and really be a family to other people who need us.
And, you know, and coaches have been doing it, you know, for years, right? So I'll be real quick on this. So I get a call last night, and I don't think he'll mind me, you know, sharing it. So one of the kids that I mentor and stuff, he's almost made it to the NBA. He was in G League, you know.
The G League.
G League. So, and he because he was dealing with the death of his brother and stuff like this, and a lot of trauma and stuff, that they didn't provide mental health assistance and support around him, and so he wasn't performing, and so they just kicked him off the team, you know. And then so that left him back, you know, to a place where he's with his girlfriend and this, and ain't bringing no money in, this and that. And so we was, you know, having a, conversation, you know, just talking, having a conversation. And he's from a Sudanese background, and he was saying that it hit me last night. he said that, man, you helped my brother out, you helped me out. We've never seen you as a coach, but we see you as a father. Right? And I start to see now older kids who now in professional doing stuff, that they didn't see me as a coach. They see me as a father. And I was saying to myself, you can see some of the behaviors they have when I have them. The same behavior my kids do, right? Because they wanted some type of guidance or discipline. Yeah. Right? It wasn't so much they want me to coach them, they're looking for a man guidance. Yeah. And it's starting to hit me now as the kids start getting older. They're saying that, not the coach aspect, they're saying the father. Yeah. Wow. Right? And so we see, that's why I see with our kids, we see behavior stuff displayed differently with us than in the schools and other places. Right? Because they're acting out because they want a father figure. Right? And they're saying that that's what we are providing for him. And it didn't hit me until the young man talked to me, because he have another father talk about the issues that he was talking. I can't share everything, but talk about the issues he was talking about. The stuff he was talking about is what you would talk to your father about. Exactly. Right? Decisions to make. Right? Should I go? What's my next move? Or I mean, he entrusted me enough to call me and say, okay, what is my next move in life? Yeah. From this.
And that's the power of our institutions. Like, and I don't mean in the formal sense, because we just talked about how like each of y'all have been a father to someone outside of your family. But I mean like our institutions, the church, this barbershop and community service center, the HBCU, charter schools run by Black people. It's like those institutions provide these instances where you can have a mother figure, father figure. Every professor I had at Howard was like an auntie or uncle, and you knew they cared about you. They cared about your learning. And so when you got that grade, when you failed, you felt like I disappointed my aunt or my grandma, and that put extra motivation on you to actually not fail. So
I've never experienced
and some of us never experienced that in an academic setting, but we can still create spaces not in that setting. And it's so important. And I just think, I don't know how close we are to the end, but I know one of the questions that I was challenged to think about was, what do you tell young people who are looking at me like, wow, she did that. And I really have like two things.
Okay.
One, I think I got ready this morning. It took me an hour to like get dressed, put my makeup on, do my hair. Took me maybe an hour. So that's what you're seeing. But what's missing is the countless hours of work, of reading, of sitting in the library, of sitting at a table at home, wanting to watch TV but can't because I have work to do. Or, deciding I'm not going to go out with my friends when I was in DC and going to the Library of Congress and sitting. I mean, there's work. There's invisible work behind what all of us do. I mean, we're sitting here, you lawyer, we don't see what you do day to day. No, I mean in the law, working in the law, I'm sorry. Day to day, with the people, doing the work, the stress, the thinking, the organizing. We don't see the plans you put together, Andre, or, there's a lot of work behind it. We don't see the billions of lines of code that my dad writes in his office. So I think for younger people, it's really important to emphasize that, because we've shifted into a culture of like immediacy. And, getting things in short clips and being distracted. So that's a major lesson, is knowing like, hey, we work a lot.
Hard work
in silence, off camera. So that's important. But I think another thing that's really important is, for Black people in particular, is knowing that whatever struggle you're encountering, your ancestors did that, probably tenfold.
Ancestors, that's goosebumps. Yes.
Superseded that. And so in order to know that, in order to hold that with you every day, you really have to study history.
Right.
That's the thing that's not being taught to you.
No.
Also, I mean, this is not just for school kids, adults.
Yes.
We're not seeing our stories on TV. You know, we watch Game of Thrones or whatever. Cool, but there's a reason you're not seeing the African version of Game of Thrones.
Right.
The stories that you see are being chosen by people who are outside of that tradition. So it's like, you have to get into your history. You have to do it because people aren't going to do it. That's not the default. They're not going to do it for you unless you're really in this black space, which a lot of us don't have the honor of being in all the time. So, like, get into these books. That's why I brought them. Right. So I just want to say one more quote.
Show them next. You show them books and
show
stuff.
these
books. Show them books right here. Look.
I gotta show these books first.
ASCAC is another.
Yeah. So ASCAC, the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations.
Oh,
Ancient
Lord,
Africa.
this is good stuff.
This is a journal that ASCAC publishes.
And where they can get it from? Amazon?
Let's talk about live. But yeah, you can
get
it. You can get it. Go to ASCAC.org. It's there's 3 issues out, and the editor-in-chief is Greg Kamathi-Carr, who is the chair of Africana Studies at Howard.
Oh,
So
nice,
even though
nice.
you didn't go to Howard, you can get a dose of it
Yeah.
from this journal. But like I was saying earlier, he said, in an era of multi-platform media technology, the practice of deep reading, reflection, and communal study is often easily overwhelmed by a glut of indiscriminate information. The times call for instruments that will help Africans and others orient themselves in time and space. We hope to offer such a tool, such a compass for the time.
Wow.
For such a time. So this is the compass. My other book that I read from was Jacob Carruthers, Meta Nature, Divine Speech. Really good. The one I'm end on, I'm going to tell you in a second. Asa Hilliard, who I mentioned.
Yes.
Sabot, The Reawakening of the African Mind. Really good. And then finally, this is a Senegalese scholar, Cheikh Anta Diop. This man was an anthropologist, scientist. I mean, you can't even describe his career. He had so many different careers. But I gotta tell y'all this quote. He said, in the face of cultural aggression of all sorts, in the face of all disintegrating factors of the outside world, the most efficient cultural weapon with which a people can arm itself is the feeling of historical continuity. You just gotta get into this history. That's all every time I talk, I'm like, we just have to study this history. And we can do that in our spaces. We can do that at the barbershop. Yeah. The barbershop has a whole history in our community. Right. We know that, right? You can do it in sports. We talked about that. You can do it in computer programming, which my dad has done with BDPA. You can do it in the community work, in county spaces, in legal spaces. Right. You can teach that history.
The history that was intentionally hidden from you.
Right.
The history that was intentionally hidden from you. That's really our weapon against the vicious assaults on blackness. And that's what
identity. I love it.
And that's what gives you confidence to then go in as an act of resistance and do well in school and try to get to college and try to get to an HBCU maybe. Right. And fight that fight.
And you make me want to go and sit in your class.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here.
I'm sitting right here.
I'm
intentionally hidden from you to instill inferiority.
Right. Absolutely.
For that purpose.
Can we get a quick one real quick?
Yeah. I want to get in front of the camera.
All right.
I just want to send a shout out to Crystal Henry Smith and William Bud Whitehorn. They have had 2 deaths. Well, they had 1 death that a young lady was shot 7 times and by her baby's dad. And the young lady, the baby was found just recently pronounced dead. And also they had a death in Chicago of Crystal's daughter-in-law was shot and killed, and the guy posted it on the internet of why he killed her. So just want to send a shout out to all of their family and wish them well through these hard times. stay strong. Miss you, Bud, so get on back.
Right. Yeah, Bud's one of our co-hosts. So Bud, we are thinking and praying for you, and hopefully all goes well. But that's the barbershop for today. Thank you, Ms. Porter, for ending our season, and whoa, she brought it, didn't she? Brought it. So a lot to think about. We appreciate you coming. You get Doug, your daughter, down here permanently, running for mayor, running for city, something. Being a daughter of our area. So that's Barbershop Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
I don't know, she's a big city girl now.
Yeah.
After you got, yeah.